Hi everyone, welcome. We are having some technical difficulties. I remember back in the day when it was the coaxial cable. So I'm going to blame the imaginary coaxial cable as our issues. But we will start. I will just give it a minute for people to arrive and see what's going on. Thank you very much for being here today. We always appreciate everybody attending. And I will begin. So today we're going to talk about STP finalisation process. And I have to say it's a wonderfully simple process. And then I'll tell you the things to watch out for. And we're going to have a look at reporting voluntary withholding. So again, I might just give it a minute, just in case other people are having some technical difficulties as well. So yes, so I hope everybody's day has gone well. And I guess I will keep going. So as I said, we're talking about the STP finalisation process because we are, of course, hurtling towards the 30th of June. So thank you for being here. My name is Deborah Thompson. I am a BAS agent and a user of GovReports. I love GovReports, and it's been wonderful to have it along my journey of being a BAS agent. So Tiana is going to be with us, but as I said, there's some technical difficulties. So she will be joining us, hopefully, very shortly. The other thing is perhaps I might just get everybody to acknowledge that they can hear me. So just a yay or hi or something like that in the questions or the chat, well, I would really appreciate, because then I know that you can actually hear me. Thank you, Monica. I do appreciate that. So yes, Tiana is going to be joining us, but there has, as I said, there's been a little bit of technical issue. Perhaps it's Brisbane and Queens and Sydney aren't talking to each other or something like that. But let's press on. So today we're going to have a look at checking and reconciling first, because that would be the first thing that I recommend everybody do with their STP. And in some of that, I would suggest that maybe you need to do it monthly or at least quarterly. We're then going to have a look at the end of year finalisation. We're going to have a look at voluntary withholding agreements. And I thought I would also mention the closely held payees, because again, they have some different dates that affect us. So I don't know if you are aware, but I hope you are, that GovReports has an interactive accounts manager, and there is 2 versions that is available for clients to use. So you can certainly sign your small clients up that maybe only have a couple of people. Maybe they have software that doesn't have payroll and they don't want to change it, or perhaps they're on the beginning journey of actually using software. So this is a great opportunity for you to use this software, get your clients into the software to use. So the first one is called IMSTP, which is basically just that payroll. So it's just for clients to be able to do their payroll, to create pay slips. So that is really good. And instead of them just trying to do something in an Excel file, you can, of course, also upload data if you have it in some other way that you need to. And then the IAM Business is a small accounting system where they are able to do everything that you need to do in an accounting system. Both of these, of course, when they're linked to you as well, then you have the opportunity to be able to go in and help the clients. And you'll see by the pricing, the IMSTP is even under the $10 that the ATO wanted to make sure there was available. So it is only $99 per annum. So a very really great resource that clients can use. The other advantage is that you can also use, if your GovReports normal subscription, you will find that Single Touch Payroll is also available in that. So the first thing I would suggest, of course, is that you do need to look at the checking and reconciling. I guess that just, comes from me being a bookkeeper. I absolutely suggest to you that if you are doing the IAM reportings or the business solution, you'll find that it really does make checking your files very easy, because generally you can't lodge anything unless it's correct. Things add up and all the information is filled out. As I said, it does pay slips, so it's doing the year to date. It's very simple, and that you're putting that information. But of course, I would still encourage you to check all of the employee details, that all the information is needed there, especially perhaps if the employee started without a TFN and now you have their TFN to be able to update. Obviously, fringe benefits, which you need to go to the tax agent, unless of course you are the tax agent, but certainly as a BAS agent, you need to be contacting the accountant. Obviously, check that your terminations are in their correct places, and this again is where you may want to, you may be able to help your clients, because they probably won't get that termination correct. They won't put things in the ETPs, etc., that perhaps need to be that way. Obviously, check termination dates, that they are in there. Ensure that you are on STP2, and I certainly would recommend that if you've had clients that have been using these solutions for a while, make sure that they have changed over to STP2. It was supposed to be January 22, so one would hope that they have moved over. Obviously, again, you can check their disaggregation if you're not setting different payroll categories up to match the STP. I certainly would suggest that you look at that when you're doing your reconciliations at the end of the year before it's finalised. And then, of course, checking that the super is paid and that all the wages are paid. That's another thing that I would suggest that you do look and see. And this is one of the ones I would suggest, that obviously quarterly, is that what they have put into the software, it has actually been paid out, so you know that the wages are in there. So with the disaggregation, I'm sure you're very well aware of it, but of course, the bonuses, commissions have to be brought out, the director's fees, paid leave, so that's annual leave, and time in lieu, and personal leave. Your salary sacrifice, your paid parental leave, overtime allowances, all of these things have their own area that you're able to use. If you do want to have a bit more of a look at that, if you go back on Tuesday, we did another webinar regarding STP solutions, so that will give you a little bit of bit more information, and you can certainly look at past webinars that are available on the GovReports website. Allowances, as I said, aren't just the expense allowances that would be a deductible for the individual. It also looks at all allowances. So if you're having site allowances or height allowances that might be paid but do need to be disaggregated in this STP2. So again, it might be something that your client hasn't actually checked. So do please, I would definitely put that on one of the my checking lists for my clients for STP if they're doing it themselves. You can look at the lodgement history. So if you want to check lodgements against what's been paid through the bank, certainly you are able to go and get those lodgements and that history reports, so that you can have a look to see that they have all gone through. So you can look by employee, you can look by receipt. This is also the place that you can go if you need that they have made a mess up of it, that you can actually fix the file and then do that full file replacement. Hopefully, of course, oh, sorry, that's not the case. With the GovReports subscription using STP, you might need to do a little bit more checking, because this is where you are actually putting in the year-to-date figures. But of course, it makes it very easy for a correction, that if you do find that you have got out of whack or somewhere with that year-to-date figures, you can just do a update event and fix those figures once you've worked out what you need to fix. You can obviously, you know, your STP reports must be free from errors before you lodge them. So at least you know all of the things that should have been done have been done. And again, this is where you just need to check and see that the clients, if it's the clients, that they have put the right things in the right place. So you can certainly, in different types of errors, you can certainly, you know, hover over the mouse and have a look and get, you know, the system actually does tell you, which is lovely, where you should go to if you do need to fill in some information that hasn't been before you lodge anything. So in this instance, even though it doesn't actually say that it has errors, it is the yellow, the orange and the red little dots that give you that information. And that information looks similar to this sort of thing. And it's telling you different errors. And as you click on each one, it will take you to those where you can change them. You'll also see on this screen, which is that first screen for the STP lodgement each pay event, is that you actually have the way of telling the ATO if it is an update event. So if you are correcting something and you're putting through an update event. But for example, these errors tell me I haven't filled something out, and they do absolutely, you know, go to that place for you to fill out the correct information. So then here it is when I have filled out that information, and all those errors as you do them and save them disappear. So it really does give you confidence that your lodgement has got all of the information. So if you're checking and reconciling, then you can, as I said, actually check the paid payroll and make sure that it's reported. So you can look at through the employer contractor reports and check all of the pay events that you have had for the client, and you're able then to make sure that all of those payments have gone through. Obviously, if you're using other software to import that information into your GovReports, then of course you do have that information to compare as well as another check for you to do that. If you're looking through the employee contractor reports, we do have the details there, and then you can go into all of them and actually look at each employee, and you can again click on that employee and it tells you whether it was processed successfully. So if for some reason you become aware that the amount's not right, you can actually look and check and see that each of those STP reports were processed successfully. Another thing that you can look at is if you think that you have done the final event, you can go in and look at the employee's employment income statement and actually check and see. You'll see there it has the final event indicator. If it's got a no in it, then you haven't finalised it. Now that again could be that maybe you've finalised everybody and one person got missed, and they're going to come back to you probably because this is the information that's going into their MyGov account. So that's where they'll come back to you and you can have a look. So let's see. I don't have any questions, so I will move on. But please, you know, if you do have any questions, please put it in the questions area. And if I can't answer them, I can always get Tiana.
Yep.
Oh, hi Tiana, welcome. How are you?
I made it. Thank you. Hi everyone.
As I said, perhaps it is the coaxial cable back in the days of free-to-air TV that's been the problem.
That's correct.
Or does that just age me? I think that's probably what happened. So all we've done so far, Tiana, is talk about what sort of things we should be checking as we go along, whether we're using the IAM solutions or the GovReports. So now let's have a look at the single touch payroll. And I love to say this because it is just, you know, there's things that are a lot harder than finalising once you've actually got, once you're happy that you've reconciled it. So 30th of June, obviously, the employers must provide payroll information to all the employees. They have, of course, 14 days generally to do that. So when you submit the STP to the employees, that's where it goes. It goes to their MyGov account, and that's where they can get their income statement. Again, it's really helpful for clients because if they're using the IAM, the reporting or the business version, then they don't have to, you know, prepare payment summaries or, dare I say, group certificates, anything like that. You tell them, I finalised, go and look in your MyGov ID, and that's where you'll find it. So in GovReports version 2, you indicate the final pay run of a financial year. So it's basically a tick is really what we're talking about. And this declares all of the information has been done for that financial year. The advantage of using STP is that if you have staff that leave during the year, especially if you have maybe a big turnover, then you can actually finalise each person as they finish. And so again, that's where perhaps, you know, you might miss somebody, but it is very easy to go back and check on that employee. So you can make a pay run as a final event. So the last pay run for the year, if you've done all your checking up to that point and you're happy with it, you can absolutely mark everybody all at once and give them a final event for that. And again, as I said, if employees cease being employees, then you can do it during the year. It's a lovely combination, especially I remember back in the day when you did have to do group certificates, where if somebody only worked that first week in July, they often were the ones that got left off. So this allows you to actually finalise them as you go. Now, with the dates that you have to finalise everybody, the 14th of July is the big date. That is when the ATO expects us all to finalise our STP by. So that is for all arm's length, as the ATO calls it, or basically any employee, it is the 14th of July that you need to finalise the finalisation for the previous financial year. If you have a combination of closely held payees and arm's length, then the arm's length are still the 14th of July, but the closely held can be the 30th of September each year. So again, you don't have to. I have found sometimes that accountants are quite happy for you to finalise all of your employees, whether they're closely held or not, and then they can go and unfinalise them if they need to change them something by that 30th of September. If you have a closely held business that only has closely held and has 20 more employees, which I would find surprising, but that's the way ATO have written it, then their date is again the 30th of September for it to be finalised. And then if you have businesses with under 19 employees, so maybe they've only got 2 people and they're both closely held, they're related to the company, then they have actually, your STP finalisation can be their income tax return due date. So again, if you are a BAS agent, then I would absolutely recommend that you speak to the tax agent, again, just so that you're comfortable with which dates you do need to finalise by, and also too, if there is that the accountant doesn't want the closely held to be finalised by you accidentally. So as I said, it's wonderfully easy once you're happy that everything is all correct, to actually all you need to do in that last pay run for the employee, either at the 30th of June or when they terminate, is you just need to tick that final event indicator with the box around it. As you can see, it is just a matter of a tick. And that's it. That's all you have to worry about then, really. It's wonderful. So obviously, I would suggest with GovReports, you review your pay runs, you add your finalisation tick on the last pay run. And as I said, as I keep saying, it can be done when the employee leaves. And you'll see it's on that first page where you're talking about the business that you actually have that final event indicator. And then again, you can roll over the payroll and start your next payroll. It's a very simple process. So again, once you tick the final event indicator, it will come up with a question. You know, is this selected employee confirmed as a final pay? You've got the yes, no, you've got the update, and there your process is done. You can then roll over the financial year again. That you can also, there is a help screen. You know, that wherever you see the question mark on GovReports or the IAM solutions, where there's a question mark, it is going to take you to some information that will help you actually finalise. So we've also got the report email, and you'll see the box with the three or four little stripes. When you click on that, you then, what you see is some more choices. You've got generate an invoice or receipt, employee details, a full file replacement or an update event, or rollover. So this is if you want to replace the event, or you need to do the whole thing again. But also this is where you can roll over the end of the year. And again, it's what period are you rolling over? You submit that and you're done for the year. Now in the IAM solutions, it's a very similar sort of thing that you need to do. Obviously, again, review your employees, review the pay runs. As I said, I would check that what's gone through the bank. But again, I would encourage you to do that perhaps on a quarterly basis. So then when you come to the 30th of June, you've only got the last 3 months to be checking. Or again, if you're doing lodgements for your clients monthly, then of course I would encourage you to be checking there as you go, because of course you want it to reflect what's in your W1 and your W2 that you have been reporting to the ATO. So here we've got a new pay run. Again, on that new pay run page, you will see there is that final event indicator again, and when employees finalised, their employment with that client. So again, it's just a matter of ticking that. And again, you can go to their income statement and have a look and see whether it says the final indicator says yes or no. Yes tells you that you've finalised them, you've told the ATO that you've finalised them, and so the employees should be going to their MyGov to get their income statements. And here again, if we want to look at the end of the year, you'll see where it, along the top toolbar, where it tells you what year you're in, and basically if you want to manage your financial years, you just click on that. The list comes up, and obviously you pick the next year and change what you need to change. So you've got your start your new financial year, and then you just start. So it's the next one. The different screens, again, always look for that final event indicator with the tick, and that's how you finish off the employee in either of the three products. So Tiana, is there anything that you would like to add?
Okay, just want to add about the rollover functions in GovReports. Rollover functions in GovReports, unlike the IAM, it's allowed you to roll over the period as you showed earlier, and you can put in the period and it roll over from the last pay that you selected from. it roll over so if the employees are getting exactly the same pay as the last, it would just roll over the function. But if you need to change the figures in one of the employees, you just basically edit the employee and update the figures. And I think because it's a year-to-date reporting in GovReports, so you will need to update all the employees' pay for that pay period, additional to basically year-to-date add-on.
Particularly, thank you, Tiana, for saying that, because particularly if it is the minimum wage they're being paid, of course, you will need to make sure that you update that once we are advised of it. And of course, that is around that same time that we find out.
And if it's a new financial year, obviously it starts from the 1st of July, and the 1st of July, of course, is starting the new financial year and starting salaries and things like that. So it's a year to date, it'll be in that first pay period. As in IAM, it's different. The rollover function, there's two options: rollover from the last pay. So in other words, if you're keeping exactly the same pay, it just roll over the exact pay, and you can basically, once you roll over, the pay slip for that new pay period will be in the pay run, and you can select those pay runs to prepare the SDP and for lodgement. As in rollover into the new financial year, there's no such thing. You just go over and start the new financial year, really.
Yeah. And I see there's a question about unticking the finalisation. Do be aware, of course, when you're doing, if you're looking for that at the 30th of June, if it got paid, in after the 1st of July, we do, of course, always have that issue about whether it's last year or next year, because, of course, payroll is always on that cash basis. Tiana, do you want to add anything to that?
So if you have lodged the in IAM, if you've lodged the pay run, the SDP with the final event, and then realize that you might have to untick. Yes, you can go back to the pay run and do an update event, untick the final event indicator and relodge, so that it just basically become not tax ready. Perhaps with the additional figures, whatever that you need to do. And then when you're ready, you can lodge the next pay run with the final event. With GovReports,
oh, sorry, you go ahead.
Yep. With GovReports, if you need to untick that, you can untick that. Just like I said, it's an update event again. You just need to untick it and relodge so that it will update on the ATO.
Thanks. Now I've got a question for you, because you weren't here at the beginning and I was explaining to everybody how wonderful the IAM solutions are. And I told them, of course, that the IAM reporting, or the STP reporting, is $99 per annum and the business is $149 per annum. But I believe there's something else that you want to tell everybody about.
Yes, it is. As a BAS agent or a tax agent, if you decide to if you purchase on the subscription on behalf of your clients and invite your clients into the product, you can get access to the wholesale rate at 30% margin.
Wonderful. That's always a lovely positive thing as well. Okay, so if there's no other questions, I shall move along. So now I want to talk about voluntary withholding agreements, because I think it's wonderful, again, if you do have clients that have voluntary withholding agreements, it's wonderful to put them onto STP. So businesses and contractors can make an agreement for that voluntary withholding for each time they're paid. The voluntary withholding can't be used, obviously, if they're under something else. So if they're under TPAR, they can obviously, they can come off TPAR and go on the voluntary withholding, but they're only one or the other, they're not both. Or obviously, if you're paying them as employees, that doesn't count. But the voluntary withholding can cover a specific task as well. It doesn't have to be all the time. It can be just for a particular job. The amount withheld is normally either the contractor's PAYG instalment rate. So again, they need to, you know, give you some information about that. It used to come in a form edged in blue from the ATO. So seeing something like that would be great. Or if it's less than 20%, or they don't have, you know, they don't have anything that they want you to go higher, then it is a flat rate of that 20% instalment. So do just keep that in mind. It's really important to know that it is voluntary, because that's the title of it, voluntary withholding, but it is also voluntary to be used in STP. You don't have to. If you currently don't already, you put them through their purchases or some other way that you are putting that in, then you certainly can still do that. The advantage is that if you are already putting them through the payroll, because you've got the PAYG withholding, or you have, you know, superannuation that you need to pay on their behalf under all of those different rules, that you are able just to keep doing it. It also lessens your burden, or your client's burden, of having to make sure that they get that payment summary. They again can get the income statement through MyGov, and so it is really, you know, it's about cutting down the burden of the employer to, or the business, so that again it takes away one more payment summary that they don't have to think about. So I do definitely recommend that if you're already, or if you've got clients that are already with voluntary withholdings, putting them through payroll, then they just actually add them in that STP. It certainly does make a great solution. It's very important, obviously, to have that written agreement between them, and it's very important that if you are going to put them through STP, is that you also need their TFN, because the voluntary agreement actually hasn't been updated yet to be able to deal for that single touch payroll. So it is important that the clients get the contractors to make sure that they give them their TFN, as well as all the other data on this agreement. Of course, you can put it on your own paper, you know, they can put on their own letterheads and what have you, but they need to make sure that they have all of that that is on the agreement that the ATO has specified. So if we look at the IMSTP reporting and the IMSTP business, which I absolutely would recommend, especially if you do have a lot of contractors that are on voluntary withholding, then in the IM solutions, which again, they all look pretty, you know, they're pretty much the same in either version for using it for payroll. So we have the payroll, you have payroll events and a pay run, still called, all of this is still called pay runs, etc. And you've got your payments and your employees. So of course, the first thing to always do is to create new employees, even though they are contractors. Important, as I mentioned, that you need to have their tax file number, and of course you need to have their ABNs as well to put that information in. And then as you go through your choices, obviously, are they a resident? Are they a working holiday maker? What are they? You also need, again, are you using the Commissioner's instalment rate, which is the 20%, or are you using, you know, a different instalment rate? So you need to make that choice. Then under the employment status, you need to pick voluntary withholding or voluntary agreement. And the more as you go through these and pick, then more information is happening behind the scenes so that they're going to be taxed as appropriate. And all of the information is going to go in the right place. Then again, under their employment category, they are that voluntary agreement. And then under the income stream again, you've got the voluntary agreement that you can pick. So it's, you know, they're not going to be confused. If you go through the list and pick all of the voluntary agreement all along, then the contractor is absolutely going to go into their correct area. And this is basically what the tax treatment looks like once you've set them up as an employee. So again, it's with the Commissioner's instalment. It's got voluntary agreement across the whole area. When you're looking at an employee, again, when you go back after you've done it, you can come here into this first screen and have a look, and you'll see that it actually tells you voluntary agreement and gives you that information so that you can always check that it's correct. You can also, on this employee, have a look at what their transactions have happened. You can also set up a pay template. So if they get the same thing all the time, then you absolutely are available, it's able to get all the information in there, and you won't have to, recreate it all the time. Then when you come in to do a pay run and you pick the employee, as you'll see, all of that information comes up there for you to put that information in. We then go to the pay run. After we've put their name in, obviously we need to put the dates in. And again, this is just done as part of your normal payroll when you normally would pay them. Again, put your dates in for the period that you're paying them for. You've got there the commissioner's rate. You go into their ordinary earnings, and again, whether you pay them by the hour or whether you pay them by the job. So in this case, this person gets 2,500 every fortnight, every month, whatever it is. And you will see that we've said that it needs super and PAYG, and you'll see that it's already worked both of those out, so you don't have anything else to do, and then you save it as posted. And then along, when you post all of when you prepare the STP, you just include them like you would any other employee, even though they're contractors. So again, you may have, your contractors paid 1 week and your employees paid the next week. So when we have a look, you'll see this is their pay slip. Again, it's telling you all along that they're contractors, and you'll see that the year to date is giving you this figure. So this is a great solution if it's a small business that maybe only has contractors, and instead of having to, put purchase orders in or whatever else, how they deal with them, keep them on an Excel spreadsheet, anything like that. It's wonderful to come in and be able to use the system, logic, like you have to by law, and although that's employees, not the voluntary agreement, but it is if you did only have contractors. I would absolutely recommend that people use IM STP for a solution to actually get them on to the ATO, and it would make, again, because the finalisation and everything is just exactly the same as any employee, and it would just make it much easier for you to finalise. So I can absolutely recommend that they use this for the contractors. I sort of can't understand why anybody wouldn't. So again, the same thing, that with their final event, when you've finished with it, perhaps they've even stopped working for you again, you can just tick that final event indicator when you are doing the last payment to them, either for the 30th of June or whether it's the last payment that for whatever job they are doing. And again, we have got, if, for example, you done their last pay and you thought, I forgot to finalise everybody, you will actually see on the pay run screen where everybody is detailed. So again, you could do this for everybody to check that they have been finalised. There is, under the more, one of the choices there is that final event indicator. So you could tick all of the people that are employed or contractors and do that final event for them all at once, which is a great solution if you have think you have forgotten somebody. So Tiana, is there any, I'll just sort of drop this in, is there any questions that we should answer about the IM solutions?
To unmute myself, right? No, I think it's I think you covered quite well, unless anyone else have questions.
Or do you think, I mean, is there anything that you think I've missed?
Not that I can see, Deborah.
Oh, cool. All right.
Cool.
I will move on then. Okay, so now this is the GovReports subscription that you're using. So this is where you're putting in the year-to-date figures. So this, as I said, is still available for the voluntary withholding. The difference is that you need to add them up in whatever other ways that you actually keep them. So this certainly can be a solution that you offer your clients, but it is something that you do, as I said, with the employees, do need to take a little bit more care that you are putting in the correct information for the employees. Again, you'll see that the tax treatment here, you've picked voluntary agreement, what the option is of what, installment rate, or they're using their own installment rate that's being advised to use. So again, you pick all the appropriate areas where you need to fill in that information. There you'll see, and again, it's when you come to put that information in, once you start putting information here, we've got the voluntary agreement, we've got the commissioner's installment rate, and here we've got the pay run details, and again, we have that final event indicator. So it works just the same. It is just the initial details for the employee / contractor that you are putting into the system. And of course, the difference here, apart from the tax file number that you need, is also that you are putting in the contractor's ABN. So that is appearing each time you're sending that to the ATO with STP. So it's important that obviously you have that information in the beginning when you set them up. And again, the final event indicator, as I've already mentioned, is just that tick. Once you're happy that you believe you've got the total, the advantage here again, because you're putting year to date, so that if you've checked it all and you have found some payment that you've missed, or maybe a payment that got put in twice, this is where you can do an update event, put in the correct information for that contractor, and save it and tick that final event indicator, all fixed in one action, which is really great. Again, also GovReports has the facility of being able to do all of the employees / contractors at the same time. So again, when you go back out and you've got everybody, all the employees or the contractors' details in there, you can actually tick them and hit final event indicator, and it will actually do the final event for all employees / contractors. So again, it makes it so much easier, I believe. As I said, don't know why we wouldn't take advantage of it. Tiana, is there anything else you want, that I missed, or?
No, I think you covered all.
Okay, sorry to keep putting you on the spot. I don't want anybody to miss out on anything. Okay, and as I said, I thought I would add the closely held payees, just because again, it's something a little bit different that you might want to make sure that you've got a handle on and been checking as you go through the year. So closely held, obviously payee, certainly tax agents know that it is something that they can put on their income tax as they do it. Again, as a BAS agent, I'm not aware, don't know what all the deal is with that, but I do know that for STP, a closely held payee is a family member of the business, could be directors or shareholders of a company, can be beneficiaries of a trust. The ATO has now, of course, wants these people included in STP. So small employees with only closely held, so again, maybe it's a small business that has 3 people that are being paid money and they all are related to the business. So they have, obviously, they don't have to finalise their STP until their individual income tax return. So again, that is something that a tax agent would know. Certainly all the BAS agents or bookkeepers out there would need to be checking with their tax agent or their accountant to make sure that they've got all those dates correct. So from 21, we have been supposedly including our closely held it is important to make sure that you do have these people included. If they're, for example, a director and they're getting wages every week, they can certainly be treated as salary and wages people. And again, the accountant at the end of the year may actually mark them closely held, but that for our purposes for STP is, if you like, not my business, being a BAS agent. A small employer can report these amounts on or before each payday, which of course is what we have to do with all STP payments. Or you can choose, again, if it's only closely held, to do it quarterly. And this, again, is what businesses might be doing. If, you know, other employees, of course, they still got to be reported as per normal, you know, every week or whenever, or fortnight, whenever they get paid. And there are different arrangements for businesses with more than 20. So they can report, as I said, the actual payments that they get before or on the date, just like any other STP employee or STP reported employee, and they can actually report actual payments quarterly if you are marking them as closely held on STP. The other choice, again, which the advantage is of doing it quarterly, is that you are allowed to make a reasonable estimate. But it is important for you to know what is a reasonable estimate. And that is basically that you need to have a look at what's happening. What are they getting paid as they go along? What circumstances? So one of the ATO's generally suggestions of reasonable is that you do a quarter for each quarter. Of course, remember that if they're just taking $1,000, you have to, of course, up it to, you know, if they've taken $1,000 cash, then you obviously have to work out what the PAYGW is. That belongs to that. But again, you could just estimate it quarterly on the previous year, and basically every quarter paid 25% as you go along, so that by the end of the fourth quarter you have paid, you know, that 100%. So with closely held, again, it's about you defining that when you set them up in GovReports, like we've said they're employees, or like we've said they're voluntary agreements. We can also say that they are closely held employees, and as each area that you pick, then you'll see different areas that you can obviously fill in, like we have done with other areas of the STP reporting. Again, making sure in that IM solutions that we do make sure that we pick that, you know, they're a resident, they're full-time, they're regular, and then at the end they're closely held, which allows us that freedom to do that quarterly reporting. So it is very important, again, that you talk to the tax agent and make sure that you and the tax agent are in agreement how you are doing the closely held. Speaking from a BAS agent's point of view. And Tiana, that's everything that I have to say. As I said, if there's other things that you think I should include or mention.
So just want to mention the tips for when you're reporting, especially for closely held or contractors. Just remember the payment date. If you are reporting, is lodging the SDP a month after, or the same time as the BAS due date, then the payment date should be the same as the lodgement date. This is to avoid the ATO system picking up, late lodgement. It's just the part of the SDP rules is that you must report SDP when you make the payment.
Yeah, thank you. That's a great tip. That is, you know, because you do need to make the pay. You do need to advise the STP on before you pay or on the date of the payment. So thanks, Tiana. That's a really good tip.
And this is also, you know, applied to other categories of payments as well. So year end especially. So if you are finalizing the last pay for all the employees, but the payment date is after the financial year end, the June 30th, then that means that payment date is falling into the next financial year.
Yes, and as I mentioned before, that payroll is on a cash basis, so it does actually change their income if if you are taking a payment from the 10th of July.
Yeah. Okay. Any questions from the floor?
Well, the only other thing, while everybody's thinking about questions, the only other thing that I would mention is that there is great help on the GovReports website, both for the IAM solutions and the GovReports. So there are videos that you can look. In fact, even with the IAM solutions, there's actually little videos, only maybe a couple of minutes, that actually, if there's a question of how do I do this, how do I do that, then it actually shows you. And that's always wonderful. A lot of us are much better than reading instructions. If we see how it's done, that is a great solution. So I would mention that as well. Tiana.
One other thing is that I know at the moment with SDP, it covers every pay categories except for the super pensions. That's still going through the PAYG payment summaries. So if the employees are getting paid as or get paid as part of the super pensions, PAYG payment summary is the only options. In case.
Thank you. Yes, certainly I think since COVID, that has been perhaps more likely showing up as well in businesses.
Deborah, I think you covered quite well, because even to now we still don't have any questions.
Well, I hope I have answered questions. Do, as I mentioned, that there are other webinars up on the GovReports website that you can certainly have a look at how things are done, different people's opinions too on different things. And you've had recent webinars, Tiana, covering what sort of things?
The new features, especially the new digital authentications. So digital signature has been upgraded in GovReports. If you if you haven't tried it, I'm pretty sure if you've been using GovReports, you probably have seen the functions coming up every now and then, especially when you're preparing the report. It will come up as part of the options that you can send it through for digital signature in the new versions. If you haven't used it and you want to know what it is, we did a webinar yesterday, and there is a webinar recording on the website, so if you can visit there and have a look. It will be compulsory. It will be the only options from July this year.
Oh, so thank you, Tiana. I've been afraid to use it, so the first thing I will do now is go and look at that webinar.
We do also have a very thorough, detailed help guide on this as well. So if you're one of those that like to read, the detailed web guide help guide is actually available within the applications.
Thank you. It's wonderful that you keep doing these webinars from my point of view, because I can learn as well. Thank you.
Well, since we haven't got any other questions from everyone, I thank you everyone for coming online and joining us for this webinar. If you've got further questions after the webinar, of course you can contact us or send us an email. Or if you've got questions for Deborah, certainly just send us an email. We can forward that to Deborah to come back to you. Once again, thank you. And if we don't have any further questions, thanks everyone, and have a good night. Thanks, Deborah.
Thanks, Tiana.
Cool.
Yeah, I don't even know how to get out myself.
Cool.
Okay. All right. Bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody.